The following program contains mature subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
Taking a relationship to the next level. This is Passion with Dr. Laurie.
Welcome to Passion, a show about love, sex, and relationships. Tonight on the program, our monthly feature, Dating Dilemmas. This is, I think, our 8th year doing this feature, so it is the one and only, the original Dating Dilemmas, where we focus on your dating issues, questions. We try to help you through that. And with us, he's been with us from the beginning, is Frank Kermit. He's a dating coach. He's the author of many books, over 20 books, in fact, on the subject of dating. We are also joined by Elite Speed Dating's Fritz-Gerald Morisseau. So we have Frank and Fritz in studio. I like to say it sounds like cereal or something. Frank and Fritz cereal. They are here to help you and answer your questions. So if you have questions about speed dating or that whole process, which we often get, you can certainly tune in. And Fritz knows his way around the dating world, even though he's married, and so is Frank, actually. Both married, but both had to.
I still date my wife.
You still date your wife, yeah. Thankfully, not enough. I hear not enough.
But when we do go out, we go.
You make
out
it count, right? Yeah. Right. Well, that's, I guess, what happens. Both of you still have young kids at home, so it's more difficult to do the dating thing. So welcome to the studio once again for our Dating Dilemmas. If you have questions for us, 514-800 to text them in, or 514-790-0800 if you would like to call in with some of your questions. So one of the things that we often we put out, or at least Frank does on Facebook, specific questions, and many of his followers will answer them or ask or state their opinions, and so we use some of that to springboard the show. And one of the things you did this month was ask people what their biggest challenges are and their biggest questions around dating, and the answers were quite varied. But I noticed, I read the thread on Facebook, which tons of people responded to, and a lot of bitterness out there, Frank. A lot of bitterness.
I think what we're dealing with is a lot of broken hearts. We're dealing with a lot of hurt people who really would like to connect, but for one reason or another, feel that there's a challenge, something blocking them from experiencing that connection. And sometimes it's a really legitimate concern. Sometimes people really do have something that's holding them back, something that makes it a bit more challenging, a little bit more difficult, where you have to put in more work than somebody else would.
Right.
And other times, people get in their own way, and they make it difficult for themselves.
Right.
So it's not, we can't just make a blanket statement saying that, it's really easy, because it's not easy for some people. And something that is easy for one person to do may be next to impossible for someone else.
Right.
And that's where we have to calibrate and figure out what are somebody's strengths, what is the best means that a person can approach dating if they're really interested in connecting with someone, and whether or not they have some basic social skills or not.
Mm-hmm. And still, like you said, some people get in their own way. So we get, I notice a lot of people will sabotage themselves, so that's a way to get in your own way of dating, and having assumptions that the assumption, for example, I hear often, there are no good men out there, so what's the point? Or everybody just wants sex, so what's the point? I hear a lot of that, when in fact that isn't true.
That isn't true. What they are facing, though, is maybe a challenge with supply and demand. It's not that there are no good men, but if you're looking for a very specific criteria, there may be a limited number of men who fit that specific criteria.
Mm-hmm. But then people will say, well, what are you saying, Frank? Does that mean I have to settle? So it's that whole question of what does that even mean?
Sometimes, and I mean, it's not fair to say, it's not nice to say, well, yeah, if what you want is unreasonable, and if the type of person you want wouldn't be attracted to you, then you might have to settle. It depends what it is that we're talking about.
Well, no, but I hear what Frank's saying. It's like if maybe this is crude or whatever, but let's say I'm a 2 in whatever category we want to use, but I set my sights only on a 10, and I won't settle for anything less than that, but I myself don't present in the same way, or I'm looking for someone who is independent or financially secure or whatever else, but I don't have that. So doesn't that pose a challenge right there? Isn't that unrealistic?
I do think that you're right on or where I would say, not that you're right, that I agree with you on the education, the challenge, and whatnot. But the feeling where I stick is the feeling that if I'm a 2 and you're a 10, I don't think that anybody should feel that they're a 2. You should always feel that you're a 10, or at least strive to be that 10. So that's where maybe sometimes I don't.
Maybe that's a wrong kind. That's why I started saying, well, I'm not sure if I like what I'm about to say here.
Exactly.
But I couldn't think of a
But I don't think there's a nice way of saying it other than you're not a 2. And even though you feel maybe that you're a 2, you're...
Okay, but I've known, hold on, because I've known people, let's say, who... who are, again, may sound shallow, but somebody I know. So not particularly handsome fellow. I'm not saying not nice, not particularly handsome. Older, doesn't have any, nothing to his name. In other words, no, just a job, like does okay, but doesn't have anything more than that. And always is looking for somebody that looks like a model, that looks like, like he doesn't present any of that. Like, why would a model want to go out with him?
I like to use the word overinflated sense of entitlement.
Okay.
Because we're not looking at the number the person is or is not. But if you think that you're better and you offer more than you actually do, reality doesn't care how you see yourself. Reality cares about reality, and reality will smack you down. You can walk into a place and think that you offer more than anybody else in the room. However, if you can't actually offer more than everybody else in the room, you're going to find that out very quickly.
Right.
So it's not just to be your best, but you also have to be the best possible candidate you can be in the mind of the prospect.
And in who you are, rather than think you're someone else. Like, it's okay to you have to love yourself no matter where you're at. Yes. And that in itself is an attractive quality.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
It shows a certain level of confidence. But it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get your ideal mate either.
That's right. So you also have to remember that, and the question I always ask people when they start describing their ideal mate: would your ideal mate want to date you? Right. Do you have something to offer that your ideal mate would value the way you believe it should be valued? And if the answer is no, then it doesn't matter that you think you're so great. If you don't have what the other person would be attracted to, then you have to be more realistic and reasonable. If we apply this to a work setting, everybody understands it.
Right.
You can't go looking at the VP job that requires certain education and a certain life experience and certain work experience and walk in there with the resume of an intern.
Right.
And expect to get the vice president's position.
Right.
Most people understand that concept, except when it comes to dating.
But it is very similar. It doesn't mean, and what Fritz was saying, you can strive to be the VP. Like you might say, I want to get there or I want to be there, but you're not there yet.
Yes.
So, and you can't offer somebody, hey, go out with me for my potential. That's what you're essentially saying. It's like, yes, I have the potential to be a VP, but the person has to go out with you with who you are today, not who you might be later on. That's a mistake a lot of people make, is that I'm in love with somebody's potential, not who they are right now. And then they get frustrated when they don't reach their potential fast enough, or they may never get to that point. So there's a lot, there's a lot to be said around here. All right, we'll continue our dating dilemmas and your thoughts, your questions about dating. What are your biggest challenges? What are your biggest questions about dating for Fritz and Frank here tonight on Passion?
She can help improve your love life in a few different ways. Passion with Dr. Laurie.
Tonight we are talking dating dilemmas, your dating challenges. What are your biggest challenges? 514-800 to text in. Frank and Fritz in studio. franktalks.com is his website. Fritz, it's elitespeeddating.com. So if you have questions about speed dating, we can talk about that. So here's a couple of texts at 514-800. Doesn't make sense. If you attract many people, but they are only looking for sex, then that is some people's reality. Well, some people's experiences have been maybe if they're on one certain site or maybe using one certain app that they have happened to, find people who seem to be only interested in sex. Doesn't always mean that's all they were interested. It just means they got the sex, and then eventually, even if they hadn't had the sex, maybe it would have fizzled out anyway. Possibly. It's not a given. Right.
Very possibly. But look, if you're good looking, one thing you're never going to have a problem with is finding a sexual partner.
Right.
That doesn't mean you're going to always get commitment just because you're good looking. And if somebody offers you commitment because you're good looking, that may not be a commitment you can really count on long term. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's a difference between being able to attract sex and being able to attract legitimate love. Mm-hmm. Let's not confuse lust and love.
Right. That's quite true. This texter writes, on previous shows from Frank on speed dating, ageism seems omnipresent. I am 60-ish and feel out of the game. But have you had events, Fritz, on for an older age category, like for that would accommodate 60-plus-year-old people?
I haven't had an event for the 60-plus.
Maybe you should.
I should.
Yes.
Yes, I should.
I'm ordering you to. Well, do you not have enough demand online? Is that part of the problem?
I have enough demand on the women. I have enough demand on the women's side. Okay. I don't have enough demand on the man's side.
Right.
And so therefore that reduces the rate
pool,
at which
right.
at which I can go.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. So what happens, it's true that it's a numbers game at some point, right?
Well, as a generation gets older, women outlive men. Mm-hmm. So that when we get to, let's say, a generation that is 85 years old, what was the statistic? It was something like for 85 and above, for every 100 women, there's only 20 men around.
Wow.
So
right.
Women outnumber men 5-1. And I think the number for people over 60 or 65, for every 100 women, I think the number is somewhere between 40 and 70. I remember reading a few different statistics.
Right.
So you're already dealing with the fact that there's less men in your age group.
Right.
Now let's add to that, women tend to try to date men who are a couple of years older. So now we take away even more men from that pool.
Right.
The third element, what makes dating for older women a little bit more challenging, is something called hypergamy. Women tend to look for men who are either at the same status or higher. Men don't usually employ hypergamy when they're looking for a relationship partner. So if she has a university degree, she's looking for a man who has a similar education. Mm-hmm. If she's got $1 million in the bank, she's looking for a man who has $1 million or more. That's hypergamy, looking for someone of the same status or at the next level up. Men don't do that. When a man is looking for either a sex partner or a relationship partner, he's not looking for someone who's on the same level or the same status. He says
it's a factor that he doesn't care about.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are an older woman and you're already dealing with less men around, of those that are around, not all of them are even going to be interested in a serious relationship. Some of them at that point figure, why be serious now? I'm finally outnumbered because up until age 25, it's men who outnumber women.
What about this? It's this text writes, it's because men in their 60s are looking for much younger women.
I got to tell you this.
They can get them, though.
They can get them, but I'm going to tell you this now as a professional, okay? I work in the matchmaking industry, and I coach millionaire men who are older. They've spent their lives acquiring wealth. These men, the vast majority, when I say vast majority, I'm talking in the 80 percentile, would rather date women their own age.
Right.
But when they go out with a woman their own age, a lot of these women are turning the dates into therapy sessions.
Oh.
They're bringing up topics of conversation. They're bringing up, and I hate to say it.
Lots of baggage.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it.
Right.
So these older men would rather be in a relationship with an older woman. But these older women, some of them have been alone for so long, they don't want to adapt to be in a relationship. Some of them have issues that they haven't resolved from their past relationships themselves. Younger women just don't have the same amount of baggage. And that's what I hear time and time again. So for all the older ladies out there, be aware that there are men who want to date you, but you also have to be present in that relationship. Otherwise, he does have a lot of competition, but he's not looking at the younger girl for a relationship. He's going to do what everybody does. When they want someone for just sex, they look at the most attractive option possible.
Right.
Usually that's someone younger. Older women do it too. They talk about the boy toys. They talk about the pool boys. They talk about traveling so that they can meet younger men who they want to have a good time with. The hookup culture is fun, but not fulfilling.
Right.
So when someone is looking for a relationship, usually they want to find someone they can connect with within their own generation. So if you've been with an older man and he says, look, it's not working out, he's not happy, you have to be mindful of the way you're communicating. You have to be present in that relationship.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So we need some speed dating events for the 60 plus. Fritz, you're on it?
I'm on it.
All right. So, gentlemen, this is a shout out to the men. If you are 60 plus and you are interested in finding a date in your age category, then go to elitespeeddating.com, sign up so Fritz has a pool of men your age so that he can match you up with all the women he has in his pool.
You know what? I'll do even better than just be on it. I will make sure that there will be a free event for 60s and up.
I like
so
that.
the whole purpose is just to have the event. So no money involved.
Okay.
All you'll have to do is to sign up.
How generous of you. Great. So just sign up. It is a free event for 60 plus, but he needs enough men. He's got the women. He needs the men. So sign up and we'll put it together. Great.
Yes.
You'll tell me when and I'll make an appearance.
Perfect.
All
We'll
right.
do.
We'll do it. We'll just do a passion speed dating event.
Sounds great for the 60 plus.
And I'll sign my book for sex after 50 for those that'll need it. There we go. Kill two birds with one stone. We did it. We can do it. 514-800 or 514-790-0800. So one of the questions that came up is, why does it seem so complicated with so many rules? What are the rules? What do you think they're referring to?
Okay, one of the reasons that dating seems so much more complicated nowadays is that people have an abundance of choice.
Yeah.
At this point, you can date who you want, regardless of age, regardless of backgrounds, regardless of religion, regardless of culture. You can date anybody you want. You can have any kind of relationship you want, whether it's monogamous,
Polly,
consensual non-monogamy, somewhere in between. You can have any relationship structure you want. The power of choice, without the skill to manage it, is leading people to lives of misery. Because you've been given all this choice, but there's no education on what to do with all that choice.
So now there's no rules. Before there were tons of rules, like in the 50s, for example, there was all kinds of rules of dating.
Exactly. And all of those social norms have been removed. Nothing's been put in to replace. So everybody is trying to muddle through, and nobody has it figured out. That's why it seems so much more difficult. When I would take somebody through a process and ask them, what are your rules? They're trying to figure out, oh, you mean the rule like don't call the person the day after the date because you might come across too desperate? Those are not the rules we're talking about. You don't have to follow any of those rules you don't want to. But you do need to know what kind of a future you want, what kind of relationship you want, what your personal boundaries are. And when you're on a date, you need to be able to communicate those. Most people have no idea what their own personal boundaries are. If you don't know who you are and you don't know what you're looking for, dating is not going to be fun.
Right. And confusing for the other person too. You know, unless you really know what you're looking for and you make that clear, you keep the other person in the relationship guessing and guessing and guessing.
And it's nobody's responsibility to read your mind. Let's be mindful that the social norms that used to be in place told men what to expect of women, told women what to expect of men, and it was very rigid.
And dating had a purpose.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
Nowadays, it still has a purpose.
Well, but I mean, you were dating because everybody wanted to get married by the age of 25. Like that was the goal.
There was already a script in place that you were expected to follow. And now there is no script. You don't have to get married if you don't want to. You want to have a life of casual encounters? That's okay now. You want to go into the sex trade? There are certain ways that that can happen legally now. People are given this abundance of choice. They don't know what to do with it. It starts with knowing yourself, knowing what you will and will not tolerate, and looking for someone that's compatible. But if you are not in the habit of expressing yourself,
Yeah, that's the problem.
and expecting someone else to just know, you're going to end up alone when you don't want to be.
That's a good point. I know of a situation I'm thinking of right now where that was exactly that. No expressing of where they were going, how they felt, where they wanted to be, where they wanted the relationship to go, and it just kept going and going without any direction, and then just kind of falls apart. Because you don't know, and then there's confusion and guessing games, and you can't be completely yourself if you don't open up and allow that little bits of vulnerability. That's what intimacy is about. So you can keep dating with absolutely no intimacy. And intimacy is about sharing, is about into me see, letting somebody see into you. But if you don't do that, you don't develop a relationship. It's not a real healthy relationship, and it breeds a lot of confusion, and then the tendency is for it to fall apart. And then this might be a habit that you might see this as a pattern for yourself. So very important to get to know yourself and what it is you are actually looking for before you even get out there and start that dating process. More dating dilemmas here with Frank Kermit and Fritz-Gerald Morisseau of EliteSpeedDating.com here on Passion.
The following program contains mature subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
Whether you need to learn how to talk or something more hands-on, she can help. Passion with Dr. Laurie.
Dating dilemmas tonight on the program once a month. That's what we focus on, your dating challenges. We've been doing this for a good 8 years, and I'm sure helping, a whole number of single people who we've got a lot writing in and texting us and calling us. Frank Kermit joins us. He's been here all those 8 years. He's a dating coach. He has written extensively on the subject. He's a contributor to the Suburban Online. He has written over 20 books on the subject, so he pretty much knows his stuff. He's been around the block. And Fritz-Gerald Morisseau of EliteSpeedDating.com, who this company's been around a while too. I met you quite a few years ago, I think, doing this. So still going strong and helping people find mates. So if you have questions, whether it's about speed dating or any of these dating challenges, we'd love to hear from you and hopefully help you out. So this texter writes, I'm a woman of 53 years old, a little bit of what we've been talking about, good looking, professional, and very active in sports. I've been single for more than 5 years. My experience on the dating scene, especially on the websites, is that men in their 50s have a lot more choice than women do. There are more women than men. I was even told by a speed dating company spokesperson that he stopped organizing events for that age group in Quebec market because there's not enough men interested in 50-year-old women. Men go for younger women. It gets depressing because the odds are against me before even starting the process. I'm about to give up, had enough. I'll concentrate on activities that fulfill me as opposed to try to date. Now, I hear the pain and I hear the frustration. But, I have friends who went through a divorce later in life. I know people in their 50s who have dated and who are in relationships and who are not dating older men. They're dating age mates, like people in their age category, whether they're a year younger, a year older, in that, and did not have trouble doing that. But again, I don't know how do some women do it and others can't, and I don't know.
Okay, there's two things. There's two things that's going on. If you can do these two things, you will be that 1 in 5 or that 1 in 10 who ends up in a relationship. Number one, focus on what you have to give. Really focus in on what you have to give. And it can't be something that you would want in a relationship.
Well, she here, good looking, professional, active, so good health.
Okay, she has a lot of those things that she would probably want in a partner. But the question is, what do the men that she's interested in want? That's what she has to figure out. Is she able to offer them something that they can't get elsewhere?
Okay.
Okay. Maybe, and look, I'm going to throw a few things out there, okay? Because I know some older men who end up dating older women that, I got to tell you, are not the prettiest. And both the couple says, yeah, we know that. We know there's a discrepancy. But he gets treated well when he goes home. Mm-hmm. The term, what did I get from some men? I'm happy with what I get at home. Meaning when he goes home, he's treated well. He's treated in the way he wants to be treated. He doesn't really care if she has a career or not.
Okay.
He may not really care that she is super fit and attractive or not. What he wants to know is, am I going to be treated in the way that I want to be treated? Be the woman that treats a man the way he wants to be treated.
So kind of look from the other perspective rather than assume this is what men want. Because maybe that's the problem that we run into a lot is we assume men want a pretty young thing, a skinny young thing, all of that when, okay, that can be nice. I'm not dissing that. Of course, for some people that matters more than for others. But generally speaking, and I too speak to a lot of, men out there looking, that isn't what they're looking for. They don't want necessarily the skinny athletic type or...
If it's there, it's a bonus. But what he's going to want is someone who can give him the day-to-day lifestyle and support that lifestyle that he's been building all of his life. Okay, and number 2, you gotta be reasonable about what you're looking to attract. As you know, women outnumber men as the ages move older.
Yeah.
So you may not come to terms with the fact that, let's say you make $100,000 a year at your career and you're employing hypergamy, that the guy has to make $100,000 or more. But you won't even look at the guy who makes $70,000 a year. And I'm telling you this, working in the matchmaking industry, these are the conversations we have sometimes.
Right.
Why are you turning this guy down? He makes less money than me. I can't show him to my friends. You got to be realistic and realize you're dealing with a smaller pool of people. Focus more on how the guy treats you, not whether or not your friends would approve.
Right. So there are all kinds of factors that we can assess and look. One of the threads that came up on Facebook was, I think we talked about, I can't remember if we talked about it off air or on air, but how does someone who is unattractive find a decent person to date? And which I find an interesting question because everybody, there's a lid for every pot. That is everybody who's coupled good looking? Is everybody really realistically that's not life? There's a small number of people who are very, very attractive, and most people fall into the, kind of average looking, if you want to say, but everybody has something attractive about them. I believe that anyway, that everybody, no matter what their physical appearance, has something that is attractive about them.
Look, the answer to that is going to be the same answer we give no matter what your setback is. If your setback is your looks, if your setback is your financial status, if your setback is your mobility issues, if your setback is you just didn't have an opportunity to make good decisions in your youth and now you're paying for it, regardless of what your setback is, the answer is always the same, and people hate this answer. You work harder to be a better candidate in the mind of the person you're interested in attracting. That's the winning formula. But that's not just for dating, that is for life. In every area of life, your job is to be the best possible candidate you can be in the mind of the prospect. That's how politicians get elected. They may not necessarily be the best candidate out there, but they're the best candidate in the minds of the prospecting voters. That's how you get into relationships. You are the best candidate in the mind of the person you are trying to attract. How do you get a job? You are the best candidate in the mind of that employer. But you gotta put in the work to be that best candidate. And you gotta be realistic when you go to the job interview and realize maybe you don't have what it takes to be the VP right out of the door. But you might end up in middle management and take it from there.
Yeah, there's definitely some steps. So a couple of texters here. A lot of men seem to prefer curvy over the athletic type, which is true. I've noticed that too in speaking to men. This texter writes, I think it comes from a woman, and what do these men get at home? This is in reference to what you were saying before. A subservient geisha? Is this what women need to be? No thanks.
What
Was
they
that what
mean,
you were implying?
No. What
Okay.
what it means is that
Hope not.
I'm going to give you an example. Okay, I'm going to give you some real life examples. Let's say the guy's really into fishing, and he's going to spend a lot of weekends away from home fishing his heart out because that's his thing. That's the thing that gives him mental peace of mind. He's looking for a woman who's okay with him going out fishing and maybe coming home smelling like the lake. And that's his thing. That's his lifestyle. If he can find a woman who can support that and be okay with that, for him, that makes him happy with what he gets at home.
Okay, so it's not about being the geisha.
I will say this. Very interesting that we went from what do they want to being a subservient geisha.
Yeah, I know. But see, this is interpretation, right? This is how people
baggage.
interpret.
This is the baggage.
Okay, based on, somebody's baggage somewhere. More dating dilemmas coming up here on Passion.
This is Passion with Dr. Laurie.
Dating dilemmas tonight on the program. We are focusing on dating challenges. Texter writes back, it's not baggage, it's observation. I notice many men with comparatively less attractive women than them, and I often find out they want women who cater to them as a geisha would or a slave. Well, I'm not saying that never happens, but I don't think that's a big generalization to make.
Look, what you may define as a geisha or a slave, another woman may find as fulfillment. Because she doesn't feel like a slave. She doesn't feel like a geisha. She has the choice to be there or not. Nobody's forcing her.
And it has to be reciprocal. I'm sorry, but that's you can be loving, giving, catering to a partner, but if the partner doesn't do that back to you, then it's a problem. It's a problem. But if that's very different.
But if there is, I'll take care of you, you take care of me. This is what I like, this is what you like, and let's do the back and forth. Then it's nobody's business. But if the first place that you think of going when someone says, well, you got to do something for your partner, you got to make your partner happy if you want a partner in your life.
You have to make your partner feel good. Like that, yeah. I think but that works on both sides.
Right. But if your first thought is, well, I'm not going to be subservient, nobody went there other than you. That's your thought process. And if you are afraid...
We didn't say the words, we never said the word subservient. It wasn't about being subservient.
And if you're afraid of that, then that fear might be contributing to pushing away good people and maybe attracting the kind who are going to go through that behavior pattern.
Yeah. Can I get some more to other questions? What do you do when the one person that you really want to go out with does not want to go out with you? Unrequited love.
Move on.
Move on.
Generally speaking, you move on because once that person sees that you've moved on, they may change their mind about why they rejected you. For some people, once they see that you've gone elsewhere, they turn around and say, well, wait a minute, what did I miss? I didn't think the person was worth anything, but now somebody else is dating them. Did I miss something? And that may pique their interest. With that said, part of the coaching process, why would you be attracted to someone that couldn't appreciate you?
Right.
And that's where I would want to go through it and say, what is it about this person that intrigued you that you thought was worthwhile? Because obviously, if they can't appreciate you, maybe your targeting mechanism might be a little off.
And I would go with what is it about you that you pursue someone who you know and who has said out loud they don't want you and they don't desire you? What is it about your emotional life or your own emotional stuff that puts you in this position? And that's something for therapy to explore so that you don't fall into this pattern and become obsessed with someone that is not available to you.
I think that's attachment theory, right?
Well, it's part of attachment theory, but yes, it's like there's a lot to explore in that, right? Yeah. Especially if you see that this is a pattern for you, and also if you get stuck there. Like that sounds to me like this person is stuck. So, they keep loving this person they desperately want who doesn't want them, and they stay there. They don't move, they don't date, they don't do anything else but think and wish and get stuck in this cycle here that is clearly unhealthy.
Sometimes it's safer. If you stay where you are, constantly in love with someone that you can never make anything happen with, it stops you from having to take a risk again and having your heart broken in the future. Yeah. For some people, it's just a safe place to be.
It's a protective mechanism. Another question, where are all the sane women, even-tempered, somewhat predictable, not expecting you to be a mind reader? Is it so hard to find someone that enjoys life and appreciates the little things?
Well,
They're out there.
They're out there.
They're out there.
With that said, if you are not focusing on those women, you have to look at the women that you are focusing on, and why are you focusing and trying to attract women that are not like that? Somebody who's going to appreciate the little things and be level-headed and even-tempered. What are the behavior patterns that go with someone like that? Once you can identify the behavior patterns, you're going to know where to find them.
That's a good point. So what are the behavior patterns? What should he be looking for?
Okay, even-tempered. You're looking for someone that's probably not into emotional upheaval. You're looking for someone who's not into drama. So maybe somebody who's preoccupied with the latest fashion and following celebrities, drama,
Right.
might not be the person that you want to go for. However, if that's the kind of person that catches your eye, then you can't say that those people don't exist. You have to recognize that you're drawn to the very people that you're complaining about.
Yeah, and that's where you have to look at yourself. When you see a pattern, if you keep being drawn to a certain type of person, and which makes you think that no woman is sane, then it's your attraction to the not sane. I mean, I'm using your word here. I'm not saying that it's really about sanity, but so you have to start looking at yourself. What is it about you? There's a common denominator, and it's not that all women are not sane. It's that it's you who are picking those women who are unpredictable, who are, maybe care about other things besides the little things.
The common element in all of your problems in your love life is you.
Yeah, that's often hard to admit, right? It's so much easier to say there are no good men out there, or no sane women out there, or no, that everybody's, the rest of it is crap,
Yeah.
but.
Well, what was that? We talked about this once. Wasn't it like the first divorce, the other person's fault? Second divorce, it was the other person's fault. Third divorce.
Maybe it's your fault.
Maybe it's me.
Maybe. Well, actually, what's so interesting when I do therapy with couples like second marriages and third marriages, and they're in trouble, so the new marriage is in trouble or the second marriage is in trouble, I'll often ask, like, what tore you apart? What broke up your first marriage or your second marriage? Or what did your partner complain about then? And it often happens, it's exactly the same thing. The same complaints, yeah. So the common denominator becomes that person or their choices. Right, either the choice of partner or their own behavior that's creating some of that issue. So, always interesting. Always interesting having you fellas in studio talking about dating. There's always so much to say, which is why we do it every single month. So if people want to get in touch with you, Frank, where do they go and to get your books and such?
Go to franktalks.com. If you want to sign up for coaching, pick up an ebook for just $10, or pick up one of my audio programs at $10 a track.
All right, so franktalks.com, and you can find out all about coaching and some of the books that are available. And if you want to sign up for speed dating,
you go to elitespeeddating.com, www.elitespeeddating.com.
And don't forget, we're going to have a free event for the 60 plus. So men, sign up. Just sign up. Once we have all those people in the pool, we will tell you time and place.
Agreed.
Is that how we're going to do it?
That is exactly how we're going to do it.
I'm on it. We're on it.
We are on it
for our listeners. All right. Thank you guys for being here. We'll catch up with you again the last Wednesday of September. So we'll see you then. Thank you all for tuning in. Thanks for all your text messages. Thanks to Dave Simon and Master Control. And thank you for being here with us. You can stay in touch with me through Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Dr. Laurie Betito, last name spelled Betito, or through my website, drlaurie.com, drlaurie.com. We'll connect again tomorrow evening. In the meantime, stay tuned now for The Comedy Show with your funny man, Joey Elias. Have a great rest of the evening, and remember to fill your life with passion.
Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away. at franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating and relationships? Visit franktalks.com.
If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, 'cause Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com. franktalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. If you are an adult and want to get a handle on this once and for all, you need this seminar. Being an adult male virgin can be most stigmatizing in today's society. You feel like a failure in the eyes of the mass culture around you, alienated from your male friends who all talk about their sexual conquests, and you must hide this shameful secret lest they use it against you. And the very personal pain, anguish, and despair that cannot be described by words that haunts you every moment of your life. Enough is enough. It is time for male virgins to take charge of their sex lives. Frank gives you the rules of winning in this seminar, the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. Make your first time the best time of her life. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys turn into men.